And we're live. Hello.
Hey.
Hey everyone. This is CityClips. Julia Hawley here, and we're focused on highlighting everything in North Florida, covering business and tech. And we have Pablo Casilimas from OneSixOne Ventures here today to talk about his story. So thank you so much, Pablo, for hopping on my humble show.
Thank you for having me, Julia.
So, of course, I want to start out with your background. You are a UF alum, and now you're one of the managing partners at one of the, I would say, one of the rare VC firms in Florida. There's not too many out here in this corner of the country. So, of course, I'm very interested and curious about like why you started it and why you're starting it where you are.
Absolutely, yeah. So I was a student at the University of Florida about 8 years ago, and at the time I was trying to build my first company. It was a marketing agency, and my co-founder, good friend at the time, Justice, we met through the Entrepreneurship Club, and he was trying to build his first company as well. And what we realized is that there was over 60,000 students at University of Florida, over 13,000 engineers, a lot of really, really bright students who wanted to build companies, who had great ideas, and yet there's teaching people how to build companies and how to raise money. So in 2017, we began hosting meetups to help build the ecosystem. And selfishly, we wanted to educate ourselves by bringing in speakers to educate us and finding mentors, but then also keep more of our friends there. Because one thing we noticed is that some of our smartest friends, they would graduate and they would move to Silicon Valley or these other hubs like New York and Seattle. So it started with meetups, then that turned into executive roundtables, workshops, and by 2020, we were hosting the largest tech events for early founders in the North Central Florida region. And of course, the pandemic happened. So we were forced to cancel our events. We had to pivot. We ended up launching an accelerator. It was fully virtual, so all over Zoom. And in a 2-year period, we ended up helping about 40 companies raise over $13 million. One of them got acquired. And at that point, we said, how do we start getting a piece of the pie? You know, we've been doing this as a passion project. How do we get equity in these companies? So the first thing we did was we went to the VC firms that were investing into our cohort companies, and we asked them, hey, can we get a scout fee or a finder's fee? And the truth is the majority of them pretty much told us no. And so at that point, we're like, well, we're doing all the work. We have the deal flow. We just need our own capital so we can start writing our own checks. So we began raising a fund at 26 years old without ever having managed money, without ever having worked for a fund. We just went after it. And we interviewed over 60 GPs. We did 3 programs for emerging fund managers. And we did everything that we could to educate ourselves. And ended up, it took us 10 months to have our first close. So in February of 2022, we officially launched the fund. And today we're managing over $3 million. We've made 15 investments all over the country. But going back to our roots of how we started, now our core differentiator as a fund is to host these highly curated programs and events all over the country. So we've now hosted, over 150 events, bringing together thousands of founders and investors, bringing in speakers like the founder of ReliaQuest, the Delian, who's partner at Founders Fund and founder of Artist Space, Josh Hugg, the co-founder of Remitly, which is a fintech with a market cap of $4 billion, and many, many others. So what the events does for us is it brings us deal flow, because if we can get really great speakers, it attracts great founders. And beyond that, it connects us with tech leaders that can help us diligence companies and help advise our portfolio. And then most importantly, the events actually serve as a platform for our portfolio companies to present on. And it helps them close more deals and helps them raise more capital as well.
Wow, that's really brave and high risk.
It
Really
was
impressive.
very high risk. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We just went all in.
But what's nice is that you've built a lot of relationships, and you recently announced something with Rain AI. And aren't they related to OpenAI? Can you talk about that?
In some way, absolutely, yeah. So Rain AI is a company that spun out of research at the University of Florida, started by Jack Kendall. He's a co-founder and CTO of the company. And the goal is to build the most energy efficient chips for AI on the planet. So one of the largest problems that we have today is the cost of compute. These AI applications, they use so much compute and it's very expensive to run these applications. And the other thing is that you don't have training and inference in the same place. So what happens is with these chips, like the NVIDIA GPUs that people are using, is that the training and inference happens in two different places. And so about 80 to 90% of the energy is wasted in sending the information back and forth between inference and memory. And so Rain AI has figured out a way to do what's called compute and memory, which means it works just like a human brain in the sense that you don't have to think about something and then act on it. It all happens simultaneously in a way. And so that's what these chips will be able to do. It will be, for example, if you have like a robot with one of these Rain chips that's doing construction, and let's say that something falls and breaks that robot's leg. Well, that robot can adapt in real time and learn what is the best way to maximize its output with a damaged leg, right? And it'll be able to do that on the fly, which is something that we can't do today. So similarly, the Department of Defense is interested in this because they have drones that are flying through territories like that where they don't have great signal, and sometimes the signal can be lost. And the drone needs to be able to learn from its surroundings and figure out where to go next or how to get back to where it started. And so the Rain AI chips are going to enable things like that. So the company started at UF. The founders got into Y Combinator in 2018. They ended up moving out to Silicon Valley. And about a year later, Sam Altman led the seed round for the company. And then he also helped them raise the Series A. So they've now raised over $40 million. They have a letter of intent for $51 million with OpenAI. And they just closed IP licensing deals with Intel and SK Hynix. And they're planning on launching their first chip to market in a couple of months.
That's so exciting. So would you say, you've probably had some success stories already in a short period of time. There's a couple questions I have. Have you had pushback because of your age?
Of course, yeah. We've had a lot of pushback, and especially in the early days, because we were still new to the industry. We didn't have a big network, a Rolodex, and we had to continue learning and improving. We don't get as much pushback today because now we have some very reputable LPs behind us that have invested in our fund, and we're getting access to some pretty incredible deals. And beyond that, a lot of people have came to one of our events and they've seen, we put on some very, very high quality events. So, we stopped getting as much pushback on that, but every now and then it still happens.
That's really awesome. It's expensive. Events are expensive. Did you ever think you were going to get into the VC world, being in the market, coming from the marketing world?
Not at all. When I started my first company, I knew very little about venture capital, and I was fascinated by the space. I love the idea of like building a startup, and I didn't like that like a marketing agency is a lot more difficult to scale versus a startup. And also, one of the reasons that I was drawn to venture capital is that I'm very ADD. I get bored very easily, and as a VC, you get to help founders with so many different companies across many different industries and verticals, which makes every single day different and every day very fun. So it was something that I was very excited about, but I knew very little about when I first started and had no idea that I would soon be a VC.
In a sense, it's very similar, like just being, coming from a marketing background, you're trying to help businesses grow. And, in a VC world, you're putting money towards companies. And I apologize for my internet. It's making me have a delay, but at least audio is okay. But so obviously with the VC world, there's money involved. You're helping a company incubate in a sense and hopefully accelerate. Is OneSixOne, are you trying to be the next YC in the Southeast?
That's a great question. That was part of our original goal. When we first started hosting these events and eventually launched the accelerator, that was our model. That was our inspiration. We read all the Paul Graham essays. We watched all the YC videos, tried to learn everything that we could from them, and just tried to replicate what they were doing. Because the way we felt was, YC is now like the center of gravity for startups in the world's largest startup hub. And had we had something like that in Florida, I mean, it would have just propelled the ecosystem so much. The issue with a place like Gainesville is that it's a swamp in the middle of North Central Florida. It's not easy to get there. And usually when people graduate, they leave and they don't come back often unless it's for like a football game or somebody else's graduation. And so it's a lot more difficult to get people to come there than it is for a place like Y Combinator or Stanford, where you're surrounded by some of the most accomplished founders in the world. So that was part of our original goal. And, I think that we're on our way to building a really great ecosystem and highlighting some of the exciting things happening in Florida, but we're still very early on.
Yeah. And we have the same challenges here in Tallahassee, being a college town where they call us like an island because we're surrounded by a rural area. But coming from San Francisco and Silicon Valley area, knowing what I know now, being in college, I was in college in the 90s, saw the .com boom, and eventually watching from afar Silicon Valley and all of the growth that it's had. But I see that we have an advantage being here in the South, where we can actually grow responsibly and ethically properly and environmentally safe. Not trying to be political here, but you know what I mean? Like, I think we have a way to do it better. And I see, like, I had to commute all over the Bay Area. So 2 hours drive to Gainesville is nothing. Same thing to Jacksonville. I see our cities and ecosystems eventually colliding, and eventually, we'll have talent galore. We have amazing talent in the North Florida area, and we can do something where people will want to choose to stay and build.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that people are realizing that you can actually stay in Florida, and that's a viable option for these engineers that are just graduating and some of the business graduates. There's a lot more opportunities in state, especially in hubs like Miami and Tampa. And I think over time, there will be many, many more opportunities.
So, okay. Is there anything else you'd love to talk about that's going on right now? I mean, you must have, do you have a team as well? I mean, you've got a lot of a big support system, I could tell.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's right now, it's me and Justice, my co-founder, who we met at University of Florida. We have a venture partner in Seattle who helps us with a lot of the events out there. He's helping us source deals and connect with other investors out there. And then we've got a couple of interns that are incredible and doing a lot for the firm as well. So yeah, we've got an early stage, small team, but we're pretty mighty. We do a lot.
Yeah, you guys do so much. I see all your activity. That's how I found you online, through mutual connections, and I'm just really impressed. You are all over Florida, and I've seen that you hosted events, like you said, in Seattle. I saw the recent pitch event that y'all did with Miami, so that was really cool. I love that concept. It's a lot of work.
It is.
But I'm sure there's a lot of value in investing in that kind of time and deal flow and event marketing in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, one of the ways that we look at it is there's a lot of firms that have an accelerator tied to their firm. For us, the events is our accelerator, basically. And now we have big events happening all over the country every single month, multiple events per month. And so we go from one to the next, and we've got, founders pitching at events. We have founders coming to some of the events. And so it brings us deal flow, and it also serves as a platform for these founders to connect and grow and raise more capital. So yeah, that's why we see so much value in it, and we're willing to put in the work that it takes.
Here, let me pull it. Okay, there. Yeah. Okay. So what types of companies are you looking for? Are you still looking for more companies to invest in? And do you have a focus in Florida?
We are still looking for more companies to invest in. We have some good dry powder right now and looking to deploy. We are very interested in infrastructure for AI and cloud. So, going back to Rain AI, a company that we invested in that spun out of UF that we talked about, we were really excited about that because one of the things that we talk about quite a bit is that right now we're in an AI gold rush. And what happened is, the 49ers, they're named after the 1849 gold rush, right? And the truth is that very few people who went out west in 1849 looking for gold hit it big. Very few people made a lot of money off the gold. The people who made a lot of money were the people selling the picks and the shovels and the Levi jeans because they had the infrastructure in a way, right? People needed these things in order to be able to go out there and mine. So that's the opportunity that we see right now that we're really excited about. And so we actually invested in another company called Hedgehog this year. That's a Seattle-based startup, and they're building the first AI network. So it's a fabric for distributed cloud, which basically allows these AI application companies to operate on a multi-cloud and be able to integrate multiple data sets and be able to operate in a way where they can build their own infrastructure instead of what you have today is you have vendor lock-in where the company that sells you the hardware is also selling you the software and you're locked into buying their hardware. Whereas when you use Hedgehog, you can build up your own infrastructure stack and you can buy your own hardware, which means you don't have to deal with these backlogs. Companies like Nvidia that are in such high demand, you have to sit there waiting to get some of the things that you need for your data center in a way. So Hedgehog allows you to get away from that vendor lock-in and stop dealing with these supply chain constraints. And we're really excited about companies like that are building that infrastructure. We're also really interested in dual use tech, so companies that sell to government and enterprises, and we're investing all over the US.
Really cool. So if I had some folks, I guess, what's the best process for someone who wants to pursue you? Do you prefer that it's at your events, or do you prefer you're good with private, pitches? What's your process like?
Yeah, I think the best approach is to go in through a warm introduction, but we look at all of our emails. So, even sending a cold email, as long as you're highlighting, the right things. We get so many generic emails that don't go into detail about traction or don't include a deck, or, it's very vague what the company is doing. And, for emails like that, it's difficult for us to respond to all of them. But, if you email us and you highlight, key metrics of traction that you've accomplished, and you highlight, what's unique about what you're doing and what's unique about the team, and why you're the best team on the planet to build this company, then we're always going to take a look, and we might just find it interesting.
So do they have to have UF ties, or what if FSU alum tries to?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, FSU alum. Sorry. No, I'm just kidding. No, you don't need to have any UF ties. Yeah, and we're very active on LinkedIn as well. So LinkedIn, email, those are both good platforms. And then probably the best way is actually like one of the things that you mentioned, which is just showing up to one of our events and getting to know us. Now, the truth is, what a lot of people don't realize is, as the event organizer, oftentimes we're running around like a chicken with our head cut off. And so it's very difficult to sit through a whole pitch during our events. So, it's a lot better if you go into it with the mindset of like, hey, I'm going to get a chance to meet, the team at 161, maybe get their contact information and follow up from there. And that, typically works great. And we meet a lot of great founders at our events.
Yeah, I want to try to make it out to your events. I know to respect your time, we got to close out, but do you have an upcoming event? I saw that go ahead.
Yes. So we're planning an investor summit in Seattle on January 16th. We're planning Gainesville Tech Week at the University of Florida. I believe it is the week of, I think it's like later in the week after Valentine's Day. So I think
Okay,
it's like the 19th to the 22nd or something like that. I got to double check on that. And
cool.
then we're planning a big investor tech founder event in Miami on March 26th. So these events will all be published on LinkedIn. That's where we promote all of our events. Uh, we're usually a little behind because we're planning so many at the same time. So it's likely that, like the February event, we won't post about it until like the first week of February. The Seattle event, we won't post about it probably till like early January. So, but we have the dates locked in and we are planning these events.
But you have enough interest that people still show up. It's not like you have to heavily market, right? and promote it. I
Yeah.
think you have a great turnout, it looks like.
Thankfully, we've built up a great brand, and people who have come to our events have gotten a lot of value out of it. And so, we're able to post and sell out very quickly for these events and get a lot of people to come out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I wanna try to make it out there for sure for the February one. There's some exciting things happening in Tallahassee too. I don't know if you know about the largest magnetics conference coming to Tallahassee. And I can share
Wow.
that information. I don't know if you'd be interested in being out there, but like big companies like Forbes, Fortune 500 companies are coming to town. And then we have like some people that you might want. I want to connect you to some folks that are also fundraising. So we'll make it happen.
That'd be great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to close out with, just to kind of highlight anything else, and last words of wisdom before we conclude?
Yeah, well, I'll share the same piece of advice that I think we got early on and that we took. Um, I think there's no substitute for actually getting the reps in. And so when we were hosting events, we continued to get better at hosting events. And then when the pandemic happened, we kind of talked about, hey, we should launch an accelerator. And then we were like, wait, we're not qualified to launch an accelerator. What makes us qualified to launch an accelerator? And then we were like, wait, if we never launch an accelerator, we'll never learn how to run an accelerator. So that was the game changing insight that we had that led us down this path. And we like to call ourselves accidental VCs. We never set out to raise a fund, we never set out to be venture capitalists. We happened to embark on this journey that led us down the path where today we're managing over $3 million and get to work with some of the best founders in the world. And so, for anybody, whether it's you're interested in getting into venture capital or you're interested in building a startup, there's no substitute for getting those reps in. So get out there, get the reps in, and go to events and connect with folks that can help you make it happen.
Awesome. Best way to end it. And thank you so much, Pablo, for hopping on. I would love to have another follow-up conversation in the near future. I mean, hey, I'd be happy to partner with you to do and pitch events somewhere closer to Tallahassee, obviously, or something. But yeah, we should definitely try to collab at some point.
That would be great. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, Julia.
Thank you so much. Oh, thanks, Sam. Someone said amazing stuff. So thank you for watching and listening in. All right, guys, I'll see you guys at the next show. I have some amazing guests lined up. And Pablo, I'll see you on the other side. Bye, guys.